Hello, and welcome to TableTalk Friday, your weekly dose of D&D hosted by three boys in a bedroom. If you like their style, you can follow them on Instagram, YouTube, and other social media platforms. And now, back to the boys.
Okay, starting from the top once again. So I've got some stuff to say, and it's a problem, but I want to get as close as I can without getting canceled because
Oh no.
Listen, my goal here is I just need to air some things out. I've been working on, building my own brand, my own business type stuff, and there's one really difficult part of it, and that's like learning how to advertise, right? I've been learning how to advertise, been putting some things up that get me out there, and I just have to say I sympathize with all the women in the world.
Oh.
All of them?
All of them.
Every single one?
Every single one. Because let me tell you that 99%, so no, I'll say 70% of the time. 70% of the time, I'm not getting good people coming into my DMs. My goal is to have people coming to my DMs that, want some personal training and stuff. 30% of the time, that is what it is. And I talk to those people, and we see if I'm the right trainer for them, and we have a little talk and a little powwow on Zoom, and then, we go our separate ways. 70% of the time, it's just a gay man in my DMs telling me how hot I am. And now this man is not here to say, oh, you're looking cute. This man is here to like I fuck me, and then tell me all the things he wants to do to me. And it's always creepy. It's always over the top. And I just sympathize with all the women out there who have to deal with people like me, who are just horny men. And that's what I get. I get horny men in my DMs all the time.
No horny women? None of them?
No, okay, I've had one or two horny women, but like...
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but it doesn't equate for the 10 to 20, like, horny men that have come into my DMs, and, like, I always try to turn the conversation around and be like, oh, do you work out? And then they're like, not really, but, like, I would, and then, like, I would be like, okay, we're having, like, a real conversation here, and then they're like, can I suck on your toes? And I'm like, no! That's not what this is about.
Is that not part of the program?
No, as a matter of fact.
Seth,
it's not.
I just feel like there are some people listening to this podcast that are just going to feel like your cup runneth over and you're complaining about nothing, because there are plenty of men out there that just want another man to suck on their toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm trying to do some work here. And, like, imagine if someone walked into your job, right? Like, someone walks into
Ooh, boy.
Yeah, and into your job. And now all of our jobs, I believe, are mostly either at home or like in an office setting. I also work at like a gym, but imagine someone comes in, right? Like Drew at your office. Someone walks in, they walk down the hallway, and they just, oh, Mr. Romano.
Oh, yes, hello.
Hi, just wanted to check in here. You're the guy who handles like the shipping and everything, right?
That's
Can
me.
I suck on your toes?
Which ones and how much?
That's the vibes that we're going with over and over and over again. And the 30% of the time, I half expect it to just devolve to that or something. It doesn't always, but like.
But Seth, it sounds like you're passing up a good opportunity here, right? You're thinking about this as a bad thing, but this is a business opportunity, right? I'm not saying you're doing anything illegal here, but what I'm saying is you have a list of people in your DMs that want to quote unquote suck on them toes. Right?
Yeah.
So what you do is you're promoting your fitness business to all these people that want to get fit and swole. So you advertise it as, if you follow my program and you look like this, you do everything I say, these people, and you give them the list, these people will suck on your toes. This is a resource here.
Now, I have made it clear at this point that I have tried to pitch these people. Like, I have tried my best to get these people to just, like, do a consultation with me or something, so that way, we can at least have a conversation when they're, like, looking at me. So, like, my eyes are up here type deal.
Oh, okay.
So, I have tried to get these people to do like consultations and stuff. I'm like, oh, you're into fitness, and they're like, yeah, I am into fitness, and I'm into this, and I do this, and I'm like, okay, well, here's like a little tidbit of advice to like tease you a little bit, and then like I want to get you onto a call, and so I go in there, I say a couple of things, I try to get them onto the call, and they're like, oh no, I literally just clicked on this because I thought you were hot, and that's real responses that I've gotten from people that are like, no, like I don't want a trainer, I just clicked on this because you're hot. And now this is an ad with like a picture of me and like a bunch of bullet points like for business stuff. Like this isn't just your average Joe picture that I posted on Instagram. Like that was like hashtag bodybuilder, hashtag looking good today, hashtag felt nice. This is a business ad.
Now, is it just me, or is that crazy that people do that? Like, they'll actually go out of, if they see someone attractive on an ad, they'll go out of their way to click on it just because they thought the person was attractive.
That is crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, I will say, though, Instagram is just like a cesspool for this stuff, though. Like, what you're really selling on Instagram, I mean, yeah, you'll get people who will DM you for your business, but they really just want to look at your business.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. They should put that in their slogan. That's a good one right there.
Yeah. Well, that's why, and more into business stuff, you got to have your target audience. You got to have the people that you're expecting when you DM them are going to message you back, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, so what I'm saying is maybe Instagram's not for you. Maybe you have to develop a new social network so that you can advertise your platform to like-minded people.
I will say my TikToks have been doing pretty well. They're all advice TikToks. Like I just give like general fitness advice, and they don't get like thousands and thousands of views, but what they do get is like in the like 500 views they get like 100 likes. And I'm like, that's a good ratio. Like if like 20% of the people who like happen to scroll past this liked it, that's a really good ratio.
That is a good ratio.
Yeah.
Do you think those are the same people that want to look at your business?
I hope so.
Hey, man, a like's a like. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Exactly.
Get that advertising.
Anyways, welcome to Table Talk Friday. My name is Seth Pittman. I'm joined by my two best buddies, Zachary. I almost said Zachary Romano. Zachary Carbon.
That's me, Zachary Romano.
Andrew Romano. How are you boys doing today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had a pretty solid day. I had off of work, so no big deal. I did a whole lot of nothing. It was wonderful.
You play the new killer?
No, it's in the PTB. The new killer for Dead by Daylight is out, everybody. It's the night. He's sick. I am beyond stoked. I watched 2 hours of gameplay today, probably on the night. Know exactly how to play him, but, we'll
sorry,
see where it goes.
The night, is it like the Knight with a K?
The Knight, yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be good, dude. Oh, he's like a Conjuration Eldritch fighter, basically. He's pretty cool.
Sick. I had a great day too, but what I'm really excited about is getting into our topic for today, which we all know is underused, underappreciated, underplayed subclasses for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And I know you boys are just foaming at the mouth to talk about all your picks for this topic, but I really just want to start out of the gate with one that has been stewing in the back of my mind. It's sort of like my go-to for this topic, and it's something straight out of the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Boys, how many times have you seen someone play an Oath of the Crown Paladin?
Never once.
Never, not a single time.
Do you even know what it does?
No, not a single thing. I assume that in some way, a crown... It's got to have some form of persuasion and or maybe like a suggestion mind control.
Yeah, so what's cool about Oath of the Crown is, first of all, it's obviously all paladins are, they swear an oath to an ideal, not necessarily to a deity. But more than other paladins, I would say, the Oath of the Crown is very agnostic in the sense that, you're swearing your loyalty to the law, to a particular monarch. You're not really swearing loyalty to a god. I mean, you could choose like a lawful deity, like what Helm or Torm or Tyr, as your deity there. But your main focus is executing the law to the letter. So your Oath of the Crown Paladin is very much like this, captain of the guard, hard ass, sort of like a grizzled lawful folk. So.
Hates his kids.
What?
Hates his kids.
Oh, for sure. The Oath of the Crown Paladin hates his kids, and so that's why I would never play one. But but anyway, it tickled me. You're sort of right, Seth. So the thing that they do really well is they've got like their crown spells, and they've got things like command and compelled duel as their first level spells that they pick up, and then their channel divinity. Champion challenge, they essentially force a creature to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they can't willingly move more than 30 feet away from you. Sort of like I challenge you, you can't run away from this fight. It's to the death.
It's like you're in Borderlands when both of you agree and punch each other, and like the little force field pops up around you, so you have to duel to the death.
Yeah, or like in Descent into Avernus when we made that pact with that one devil. And he said, "Yeah, this fight is to the death." All right. Well, you can't. You can't run away now.
Yeah, you tried.
I wish there were more uses for compelled duel, because I don't think I've ever witnessed someone use it. Even in a one-off, I
feel like it's mostly useful in like a really RP heavy campaign.
I just want like a Western duel though. Like I want two people to have like little hand crossbows on their belts.
I
they
do
just
like
whip
that.
out. Like that's so sick.
Well, and I think that works really well too for like a paladin who's very tanky. Like you take heavy armor master. You take maybe even like a level of barbarian, so that you can. Well, then I guess you couldn't concentrate on the spell at that point. But the point still stands. You make a character with a lot of resistance, and then you say, well, you can't attack any of my other enemies, without having disadvantage. Or I'm sorry, my allies. So you might as well fight me. The other really cool thing that they get is their Channel Divinity Turn the Tide, which as a bonus action, you can heal 1d6 plus your charisma modifier to any creature that can hear you within 30 feet. And the only stipulation is that they can't have more than half their hit points when you heal them. So it's like multiple people are down, let's get them all back up in one go, sort of like a mass healing word, but you get it at 3rd level as a paladin. So
that's pretty handy. Okay, that's pretty good healing for low level. And I gotta say, the small detail of if they can hear you within 30 feet, I feel like is a big deal, because there's so many spells that I try to cast. Of course, I can't think of any off the top of my head, or abilities that I have in our campaigns where I need sight. And so there are situations where I'm out of the picture, or maybe I want to cast blink so that I'm in the ethereal plane or something like that. And so there's a lot of restriction there. But if they can hear you, that gives you a lot more options there.
Yeah, so the one thing that I'll say really sucks about the Oath of the Crown, and one of the reasons that I think a lot of people stray away from this for a number of reasons. First of all, I mean, the flavor is very specific. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to play, like, a chaotic Oath of the Crown paladin unless you're, like, beholden to, like, the court of the Fae, and that's your, your crown that you're swearing to. But they don't have most paladins will have a specific aura that they get that really, provides some awesome benefits. Like, Oath of the Ancients paladin gets their resistance to all damage from spells aura. They don't get an aura. So at 7th level, when a creature within 5 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically substitute your own health for that of the target creature, causing that creature not to take any damage, but you take the damage instead. Oath of Redemption paladin has something similar to this, but even that's in an aura. So
that sucks.
Yeah, it does kind of suck. But the one reason why I still think that this is a valid subclass is at 9th level they get one spell that no other paladin gets. It's the best cleric spell in the game, baby. It's Spirit Guardians.
Oh,
and they're a paladin that gets that.
That's why they don't get an aura.
Yeah, exactly.
That is their aura.
Because that's their aura.
Yeah, they got Spirit Guardians.
Can you imagine they come out with a UA paladin that's their aura? They just activate Spirit Guardians twice a day.
Ugh.
Oh,
every
that's
time I
disgusting.
envision Spirit Guardians, it gets cooler. Like, depending on the flavor of the character who's casting it, whether it's actually a bunch of like angels or like knights, or it could even be a bunch of devils like flying around you. Like, just the things you can flavor it as are so cool.
That's the thing, when they call it Spirit Guardians, it could literally be anything. Because when you think spirits, it could be ghostly, it could be
like a
almost
spiritual
like an
weapon.
ancestral barbarian type of vibe. Anything you can think of, you can use as those spirits, which is super
So cool.
100%. So we don't have to get into all of their features, but that's sort of the main thing that I want to hit on is just like I feel like even if you take just 5 levels of or 3 levels of this subclass, like those channel divinities are surprisingly cool, and I really like the flavor of this character. I'd like to see someone else do it, or someone at all do it, because at this time I don't think, like, not even on like a live play or anything have I seen anyone touch the Oath of the Crown. And I again, also part of that reason is it's tucked into the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and a lot of those things just sort of seem like, is this even a real book? Are we even using this? Like, what's the...
I mean, the same thing happened with Way the Long Death Monk, and I mean, I don't want to even say anything about Purple Dragon Knight. It's not needed.
All your break my heart set.
But what I will say is I need to bring up some monk subclasses, because there are plenty of monk subclasses that I feel are unbalanced, not very good, and like not necessarily not very good, but like they don't shape up to what the rest of the monk subclasses are. Like for the longest time, we only had like 2 like usable good monk subclasses. We had Way of the Open Hand, Way of the Drunken Master is like another really good one. But then I'm like, okay, these are 2 amazing ones. And then we had Way of the 4 Elements, Way of the Long Death, which I actually feel like is good, but the flavor's off.
Well, yeah, and it was another one that was tucked into the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, so no one fucked with it.
Let's see, Way of the Sun Soul, Way of the Kensai. There's so many that are like, they're really cool in concept, but then the second you get beneath the surface, you're like, oh, well, that's not that good. So the one I want to talk about first is going to be the Way of the Long Death, tucked away in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. What they do with it in there is basically every time you kill an enemy starting at your first subclass ability is you get some temporary hit points back. That's very cool. It's nice that if you're the one to finish an enemy off, you get those hit points, and it's very helpful in battle. So I feel like that's a good intro ability. The big ability for Way of the Long Death comes when you get to level 11. You basically become like a reborn or like a zombie or whatever, because at level 11, you have 11 key points. Anytime you get taken to below, like you go below or to 0 hit points or below, you can spend 1 key point to go back to 1. So you just stay up forever and ever and ever. As a monk, you're running around the battlefield, you're getting hits off. Maybe you're not using too many of those key points for those like general monk abilities, but you are not going down. Especially if you were to multi-class or something with this. You could take that, have like a fighting style along with it, or take that and have a like a barbarian subclass along with it, so you can rage,
or even you could multi-class that into druid, and then you've got your your wild shape hit points on top of that.
Exactly.
So you're even more tanky. That's disgusting. And I guess you could kind of do that, because I don't think the wild shape says like you still can use any of your features that aren't reliant on your person, right? So
yeah, monk druid's a really cool one.
Yeah,
to
you
think
could
about.
still, and that's probably one of my favorite subclasses or multi-classes that we haven't seen at our table. But I'm thinking about it.
It might be optimal, but I gotta say, the idea of a monk druid, it's making me think of just like these cartoon character wolves, just like turning into ninjas basically, and just like getting little front kicks and karate chops. It's like, what is happening here?
No, it's Kung Fu Panda.
No, guys, I love the thought of the monk that like is in the middle of a fight, jumps up in the air, turns into a bird, and then like flies wild shapes again and like flying kicks like the enemy or something.
Ooh, okay,
like they're just changing in and out of wild shapes for mobility's sake.
That would be a super cool way to flavor the Ascendant Dragon Monk or whatever that's called.
That's not underrated though. That's a good one.
Yeah, well, and it's more recent, so it's at the top of a lot of people's minds. Still haven't seen anyone play one though, but it's definitely a powerful one. So
yeah, so Way of the Long Death Monk is one. Another one is Way of the 4 Elements Monk. This is one that I don't expect to see, or I wonder if they'll even revamp it, hopefully, whenever the new PHB comes out for
they have to. If there's Wizards of the Coast, I know you've been listening to this whole episode so far. I hope you like the part about sucking toes.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, please. If there's one thing that you do in one D&D, it's you have to bring back Way of the 4 Elements Monk, and you have to make it the best monk subclass, because it is the coolest flavor. I want to play the Avatar in D&D. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and the way they make it sound is so cool because it's like, hey, pick your starter element basically when at the beginning when you get the subclass, and then as you're going you get more and more abilities. So it's like, okay, you know what, you pick your starter element, you know, you get your 1 fire ability and 1 water ability, or like 2 fire abilities or anything, and then as you're leveling up, you're acquiring more of those abilities, sort of like superiority stuff for the battle master.
Yeah,
or the battle maneuvers.
Sort of like Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender. You start as an airbender, and then you get your extra abilities that you add on top of that as you're learning and honing your whatever.
Yeah, it's super cool. I love everything about Way of the Four Elements flavor-wise. The second you go and read those abilities and what you do and how many key points each of them costs, you're like, I'd rather just be a monk, because the monks, like, general abilities like Stunning Strike and Flurry of Blows are better, like infinitely better to use your key points on than the abilities they give you in the Four Elements Monk.
Would you rather spend 3 key points and cast Scorching Ray, or 1 and not die? Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, or I think it's like 2 key points and you cast Burning Hands, or you can use those 2 key points to, you know, potentially stun the enemy for the whole round.
I feel like
you could use one of those key points to do that, or you could use both of them on, you know, multiple attacks on that same turn to achieve the same effect, or you could use those 2 key points to disengage and Flurry of Blows in the same turn, or no, you couldn't do that, but you could disengage or dash or Flurry of Blows or
patient defense,
any number of things.
So I think they need a serious rework, that you need to be able to add some, maybe whenever your attacks go magical, they change to some sort of element as well. Maybe you add a D4 of some sort of damage die onto it. Maybe you need to be able to use those elements to more effect, and then just make the abilities more powerful. Like, hey, instead of giving me one key point, an extra D6 on my hit, to which I could have just used to get an extra hit anyways, why don't you just let me do some sort of like a smite attack, like where I'm doing 2 extra D6 like of some sort of damage die, so that way it's at least worth it.
Right, and I'm not saying you have to go nuts, but the monk in and of itself is a pretty tight class with like all the things that you can do with your key. I almost feel like if we're really going to make the Way of the Four Elements monk worthwhile, there have to be like some passive things that aren't eating up all that key, which is already a super limited resource anyway. I mean, if you think about like a sorcerer or a wizard, they've got at 5th level, they've got 4 first level spell slots and 2 or 3 second level spell slots, and then 2 third level spell slots. That's a total of 7 resources with varying levels of power. And then you look at the monk, they've got 5 key points, and that's it. And obviously they can regain those back by meditating for 30 minutes, but who has 30 minutes in the middle of, combat or a dungeon or, whatever the case may be. So definitely need to lay off the key hungry abilities. Like, honestly, Way of Four Elements, in my mind, is very close to being a very good subclass, but it's just the prices need to be reconsidered versus other options. Because, again, this is a resource that the monk has very limited compared to spell slots, and a first level spell is worth 2 key points? That's ridiculous.
No, it's definitely crazy. If they want to make this class feasible in any way, shape, or form, they have to be focusing on just the cheaper options. You can think about any other point system in the game. I immediately think over to sorcerers with their sorcery points. When you're picking your meta magics, often, for me, I pick the cheaper ones, because you know what? You only get so many of them, and they're pretty influential in the spells that you have. And even jumping back to monks for a moment, there's an option, I think it's the Open Hand Monk, that has that very cool Quivering Palm strike that they could do, which does a bajillion necrotic damage, right? And I think it actually does have a rather high cost of key, but that's
it's
worth
like
it.
10 key points, yeah.
That's a big deal, and I'm willing to spend those key points on that kind of damage, right? But to cast a spell as a monk, like, it shouldn't be 3, 4, 5 points. Why don't they just focus more on elemental punches, right? It almost makes me think of Pokemon with like the Thunder Punch or the Ice Punch.
Well,
you know?
and there are some genuinely cool ones. There's a Shape Water one where literally like you spend 1 key point, and within like a 30 foot radius or something like that, you can change and shape water however you want. So I used it in a really cool way whenever we did like a one-off at one point, whenever we had first started out playing, where like I got knocked into the air and then like my turn started. And so I used my key points to do that water one. And I made out of the pool that we were over top of so I didn't fall in as my monk. I made like a giant slide that I could like slide down on, and then I slid and punched the enemy when I got to the bottom of it. So I just like used it in a really cool way that luckily our DM was like okay with. He let me get like an extra attack in on it or something like that so that I could do that. But yeah, you can.
We were also on our back foot. He realized that, this encounter is very poorly balanced. They're all going to die. So
Yeah.
that's the context, but still.
I will throw out there very briefly. I don't remember how we got on these elemental monks, but I actually really do like this class. And, if you are listening out there, I'm not even asking for a great monk class here. Just give me something that's worth it, and I will play it immediately.
No, give us some, like, just like we saw the stand-themed, like the JoJo's themed monk. We have the Sun Soul, which is underpowered, DBZ themed. Like, just do an Avatar-themed monk, exactly like you would see in the show. We've got our Jedi-themed fighter. We've got, like, all of these things that are definitely blatantly taking from, like, borrowing from other properties because they're not, like, exactly the same. But, like, yeah, watch the show and then make that. Like, make it so the Four Elements monk can do an earth attack where they kick up a rock and punch it hard, and then it does, like, I don't know, 3d8 bludgeoning damage, whatever it hits the enemy.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about other monk subclasses that really are underused, underpowered, Way of the Sun Soul.
Yep, exact same thing.
Yeah, same problem. They've got a very cool thing where they can shoot their little radiant sun bolts or whatever they call them.
Which are like the key strikes and stuff from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, but the issue with those is it's only a 30-foot range. I don't believe it costs any key to throw them, but you're not gaining that much from that functionality, and that's pretty much the only thing that you're going to be using, because everything else from that subclass just costs way too much key to be viable, and they're all like weakened versions of better spells. So you can do a Radiant Burning Hands, but it only does like 2d6. And it still costs the 2 key points.
Just be a Dragonborn and have a breath weapon at that point.
Yeah, you've got like a Radiant Fireball, but it again just doesn't do the damage that you want at the level you get it. So, very, very close to being awesome. And the Ascendant Dragon Monk really solves all of my problems with these other two subclasses, because it's the same thing. You're an elemental dragon. You're shooting fucking lasers and elemental attacks. But it's all for a reasonable price, and you can also fly. So, very cool.
I will say, we've talked about the dragon versions of some of these newer classes, kind of pooping on some of the older variations. And one class that I really want to talk about that I don't hear anybody else mentioning at all is actually the Swarmkeeper Ranger. Now, there's a lot of people out there, I feel like, that are going to argue this class is rather weak. I like this class a lot, if nothing else, for the flavor, right? Going right back to those elemental monks, there's so much opportunity for the Swarmkeeper Ranger, it's ridiculous. So it could be your swarm that you have that follows you around, right? It could be anything of your own choosing, right? In the book, they give you an example of bees, a swarm of bees that follow you around. The only condition, I believe, is that it has to basically take up your space and be within you or within you, that kind of thing. So you could do bees, you could do crows, you could be like the creepy, edgy Rick from Rick and Morty, where he becomes Crow Man. There's a million.
Forgot about that.
It was pretty cool, but when we started talking about Spelljammer recently, because that's going to be our next campaign, and I immediately pitched to Seth the idea of being a Swarmkeeper Ranger, but I had a swarm of bees that all had little space helmets on them. So they were just little space bees that would follow me around.
So
and be
cute.
The cutest thing ever. But that's the cool thing. Those literally only two things. Those are two options, right? Bees and crows. You could do anything. I've played this once before as a guy who had crows following around, but you could do rats. You could do crabs. It could be anything. It could be spirits for all. It could be anything. You can multi-class and do ancestral barbarian, and you could have your ancestors follow you around. You have ghosts. You could be like a Ghostbusters.
Ancestors all over me.
I do like the idea of a swarm of ghosts.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a really cool idea. Or like a swarm of bats for like a vampire themed character.
You see what I'm saying? We haven't even touched the abilities yet, and there's so many cool options for this right here that just gets me going.
So are they underpowered?
So some people say yes. I'm going to say that they're not. For the sole reason that they have so many options, and I'll dive just into their abilities a little bit here. The main thing, obviously, is their swarm itself. And as they level up through their levels, their swarm can do more and more things all the way up to their capstone, right? But immediately, the swarm at level 3 gets a number of different things they can do on their turn without using their action or bonus. It's a free action they get when they attack. So it's a very cool little bonus right here. So, and I'll read a couple of them here. So when you make a successful attack on a creature, usually I imagine a ranger has a bow, but it could be a sword of some kind as well. The attack's target takes 1d6 piercing damage from the swarm. You could just add an extra d6 onto the attack. No questions asked. There's no roll. Easy peasy.
Because you hit him with your bees. My sword has bees on it. You just smack him with it.
No, not bees!
Which, again, there's so many ways you can flavor that. You could do
like a crow on the edge of your blade, and you just smack him in the face with the crow.
Caw, bitch.
I don't know. That one was bad, but
No, that was good. That was good.
But the way I was actually a crow ranger, basically, and in the few one-offs I had used this character for, and the way I had flavored it was I would yell at the crows, and they would jump on my arrows, and I would fling them over, and as they landed and penetrated the enemy, the crows would jump off and start pecking at them and start swarming around them like they would swarm over me, which was pretty fun. But you could flavor this a number of ways, too. You could use the bees so that the bees coat your arrows and like all the little stingers go in them. You could do it so that you're, some kind of snake wrangler, right? And maybe you use the venom from the snakes to coat your arrows in, something like that. But again, that's just the D6. So we're jumping into some other stuff here. The attack's target must succeed on a strength saving throw against your spell save DC or be moved by the swarm up to 15 feet horizontally in a direction of your choice.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's cool. So you have to bypass your damage, but that gives you some serious ground control here, right? You can now move your enemies around. I guess you could be a friend, too, if you really wanted to shoot them with an arrow. But you can move enemies around the battlefield. It says nothing about flat land. You can push people off of cliffs. You can have your crows grab onto these people's hair and just pull them off the cliff and drop them, right? This is cool.
that is really cool.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah, that is really cool. I like that.
It's pretty nifty.
Does it say anything about elevation? Could you have them fly them up 15 feet?
It
It
does say
says a direction-
horizontally.
Okay.
But even so, I still don't think it's bad because you actually do get some vertical options for yourself later, and we'll get into that. And the third option here
It's
is...
me, Drew, and my cloud of bees, and I'm flying on them. I can't get over it. It's so funny.
I will say, if you don't like the animals, you don't like the spirits, right? If you're a fan of Naruto, try this class, but be Gaara. Have a big backpack of sand on your back, and just have it be sand. Be an earthbender. Do it.
Yes, that's cool.
That's a really cool idea.
I love that.
Guys, I get so excited about this class. I'm sorry. But the third option, you are moved by the swarm 5 feet horizontally in a direction of your choice. It's a little bit. It's only 5 feet. But again, it's giving that mobility on the battlefield, right? So you hit somebody, and you can immediately move yourself. I think it's pretty handy. It's pretty cool. Gives you a little bit of mobility there. But then later on, at still level 3 though, Swarmkeeper Magic, you get the ability to cast Mage Hand, but your spirits form the Mage Hand, which is pretty cool. So you can make a big Bigsby's hand basically out of bees. It's pretty cool. It's a little more flavorful. There's nothing too crazy about it.
You've gotten me more into the idea of this. Like, I would love to see someone else play this character, but for myself, I'm not going to play this character.
You might. They have some really cool abilities coming up.
I would love to play myself on a cloud of miniatures, since I have so many, and they fly me around and do my bidding.
There's got to be a good way to make that work in the fiction too. You're just maybe you're an artificer multi-class, so you're in your free time you just make a bunch of little miniature toys.
What's Pinocchio's dad's name?
Geppetto.
You're playing like a Geppetto knockoff, and he has a bunch of living toys.
Oh, that's too scary. Like a puppet master.
No,
Yeah.
and your name
Yeah.
is Andy from Toy Story.
And you have an army of green men.
This is a great Christmas one-off, boys. Right here, Christmas one-off idea.
Yeah, my
Just
name
throwing
is
it out
Andy
there.
from Toy Story. Someone tell Patrick that one.
No. I'm locking this one in. I'm gonna steal it, and then Patrick's gonna be like, "Oh, beans." My character's name just isn't as funny as Zach's this year.
My character's already decided on, and I don't think he'll be as loved as much as I loved Jack of Lantern. But I think
we'll see.
it's gonna be really funny.
You could always be a like a toy master of some kind and just have little snowmen follow you
No,
around.
we've already talked about what mine's gonna be.
I'm just saying, a little snowman would be cool.
Mine's really good.
All right. Well, level 7, you get Writhing Tide. So at this point, you can condense part of your swarm into a focused mass that lifts you up. As a bonus action, you gain a flying speed of 10 feet and can hover. It's not very fast, but you could still use a flying speed here. This effect lasts for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated. And you can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus.
What level is that?
Level 7.
Okay.
So this one, I think maybe this is where it gets some slack here, right? It's not overpowered by any means. It's only a 10-foot fly speed, but it is an on-demand bonus action flight speed, which I would argue is pretty handy. And it lasts for a minute, so you can get to wherever you need to go, activated a couple times as well.
Yeah,
So-
I would say it's a nifty little tool, but I would almost rather them give my player a permanent fly speed with their swarm. You know,
Yeah, no.
like I would almost rather than be like, yeah, you get a 10-foot fly speed or you get a 15-foot fly speed on top of your regular speed all the time. Like just give them that.
Yeah, and funny enough, with the swarm, we talk about a lot of things that have wings, but of course, like I said, you could use rats or something like that. They don't mention anything about flight as far as like using your swarm as a familiar of some sort, which I feel like they kind of missed out on there. I imagine most people would probably use it that way, where you can kind of communicate with them and you can ask them maybe to go get you something, that kind
Yeah,
of
I'd
vibe.
say you could if you have Find Familiar, you can use your swarm as your familiar.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I just feel like there should have been something incorporated there,
Yeah.
especially if we're talking about the flight speeds here. But plus, it's funny just to think about you being carried by like a whole swarm of bees.
Yes, it's hilarious.
All right,
What's even funnier is not you being like them being a cloud beneath you and you walking on them. What's even funnier is them just like all being attached to your back and them just picking you up and you just go along with what the bees want you to do.
No, I'm thinking, what if you do have like a swarm of rats and that fly speed that you're talking about? No, they're just like stacking themselves up
Oh
on
my
top
god,
of
like
each other.
Plague Tale like style, like spilling into hallways and stuff because there's so many rats.
Right,
Infinite
exactly.
rats.
And
Oh
so,
my
and
gosh.
that's how they lift you. Like they just stack up on one another.
That's so scary.
Which, just as far as side flavor goes, if you do use rats and stuff and you're going to use that many, when you're a swarm keeper, you always use your swarm, so they're always with you, right? So there are a lot of situations where maybe you're in a cave or maybe you're somewhere where these animals wouldn't normally be, and you have to be kind of creative with where they come from, right? So you might want to have like a backpack full of rats that just start running around, or maybe you have like a big thick beard where all the bees fly out of or something. So maybe you could keep them on you. Maybe you just call them and they begin to dig and burrow out of the ground. It's pretty neat, a lot of options.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets pretty cool. So Mighty Swarm. Your gathered swarm grows mightier in the following ways. The damage of the gathered swarm increases to 1d8. So now if you choose to do 1d6 damage, it's now 1d8. If a creature fails its saving throw against being moved by the gathered swarm, you can also cause the swarm to knock the creature prone. So that's a free action after you hit them, which is pretty neat. And when you are moved by a gathered swarm, it gives you half cover until the start of your next turn. So you get a +2 to your AC. So you're choosing between AC, extra damage, controlling the battlefield, knocking people prone. It's pretty legit. And their capstone.
That on top of having a lot of druid abilities is nice. Like, I mean, I would, or it's ranger.
It is ranger.
Never
It is
mind,
a
not
ranger.
druid. A bunch of ranger abilities. Like, that is pretty nice. I'm not going to say Swarmkeeper's bad by any means, but at the same time, I think there's way cooler options.
I think there's definitely better options, which is where people, I think, get confused here, because it's not the strongest ranger by any means, but it does have a lot of options
Yeah.
they can do for free, by the way. And the last capstone they get here. I'm gonna
Oh,
read
did
it
you say free?
for free?
Oh my gosh.
For free at 15th level, you get Swarming Dispersal. This one is probably one of the coolest capstones for rangers. You can discorporate into your swarm, avoiding danger. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to give yourself resistance to that damage. You vanish into the swarm and then teleport to an unoccupied space that you can see within 30 feet of you. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So as a reaction, you can teleport. Your bees can surround you, pick you up, and move you somewhere else. If you're going to take the rat approach, there's so many rats at this point that they overtake you. There's a wave of them, and all of a sudden, you come out over there 30 feet away.
I have to say, so you mentioned earlier Naruto. You missed out on the character that actually is just a Swarmkeeper Ranger. His name is Shino. He has little tiny bugs, and there's pores all over his body where the bugs go in and out. Like, he trains bugs.
Brody.
And when he does his substitution jutsu, so like he gets hit and he uses that so that way he doesn't actually take damage or die. When he does that, a bunch of those bugs like make him teleport, and he goes like to the nearest place where the other bugs are. Like, it's so cool. So he has that ability, and it is very cool.
Okay, so there's a lot of inspiration here from TV shows, I feel like, or there might even be other characters that you could think of that you could use this for. But I highly recommend anyone listening to give this one a try. It's so flavorful. There's a lot of options, and it is not underpowered by any means. It has plenty of options here. Very flavorful, very underrated.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really cool subclass, but I almost wish that there were that it wasn't a ranger subclass. Like
a druid?
Well, yeah, it seems like a really cool druid or like warlock. Like I'm imagining like a hag or a witch with like a swarm of something, you know?
Ooh, yeah.
I would love to see a warlock subclass kind of like that.
Which that's what multiclassing is for. But, you know.
No,
yeah,
that's true.
I think the main thing with the Swarmkeeper is like, yeah, I wish it was not attached to Ranger like Zach said, just because Ranger in the original is this in Xanathar's?
So this is actually in Tasha's, so it's fairly new.
Okay, so it's newer. Yeah, the one thing I would like to see from it then is, using all of the new Ranger stuff, because if you play that with the original Ranger and don't use a lot of like the new stuff, you are going to feel like an underpowered member of the party come like level 5, level 6. I think, it being Ranger as it is, now, I kind of like it. I'm on board.
And I will say one last thing on this. One of the bigger reasons we were talking about the dragons before, where the dragon monk kind of took over and maybe pushed some of the other monks to the side. When the Drake Warden came out, I feel like it did the same thing to the Swarmkeeper, because the Drake Warden is extremely cool, but I'd like to see more Swarmkeepers out there.
Well, yeah, not just to the Swarmkeeper, but also to the Beastmaster, which they all occupy the same space, so I think that's more than anything why I wish that the Swarmkeeper went to someone else.
Yeah, like
just
here's
because...
three companion subclasses for your Ranger. We don't need 3.
I also kind of like the idea that Rangers, no matter which one you pick, you get a variation of a companion. It may not be an action, may not be a bear. It could be, spirits or something.
Well, if you're going to do that, you got to do it for all of them, okay?
No, you're right. Redo some Rangers, boys. Let's see.
Zach, you got another one?
You know that I do, and I'm glad you put me on the spot like that. So I'm just gonna talk a while I pull it up on my phone.
It's okay. I've got a couple others, but I'll let you go because I think I've got 2 others I want to cover.
Well, yeah. So just quickly, I feel like there are some classes that just all of their subclasses are underused because there's like 1 or 2 optimal options, and I think that's nowhere is that more true than with the Druid, which. There's a lot of cool ideas. I mean, they've got, the Circle of the Dreams, Circle of the Shepherd, and then the newer ones are actually pretty good. Spores, Stars, and Wildfire, but we haven't seen a lot of them just because they're new.
Yeah, Wildfire is in Critical Role, and it's very, very cool.
Oh, well then never mind. I'm sure that one's seeing plenty of use. But in any case, I really just want to talk about the Circle of the Shepherd, which I know that it's not as good as Circle of the Moon or Circle of the Land. I love Circle of the Moon and Circle of the Land, but I'm tired of seeing every druid be Circle of the Moon or Circle of the Land.
Druid is the Circle of the Land subclass the Circle of the Land class for me, because anytime I think Druid, I'm like, okay, now which land am I going to be?
No, but I feel with most people it's Circle of the Moon. Like, all right, I'm going to be a big monstrous creature at level 2, which it's super awesome. But the reason that you think that, Seth, the reason that you're not all over Circle of the Moon, how many Circle of the Moon druids have you seen?
Too many.
Yeah, it's all of them.
Yeah, because everyone wants to do the whole turning into animals thing, but I've always found druids to be like, okay, they use that as a utility, and it's not their whole thing.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast, I really hope you're enjoying the episode. One more thing for 1D&D. Could you like make the wild shape just a little bit better for all druids so that we don't have to go into Circle of the Moon to get those CR1 creatures early? That'd be great. I mean, I'm not asking for every druid to be able to turn into a dire wolf, but like, maybe by level 6, maybe,
Well, no, the thing that I like about the wild shape being more limited for other druids is it is just utility. Like, it's your stealth option. It's your movement option. Like, you're using that pure utility. Circle of the Moon, it's like, okay, I want this to be my combat option. And that's why I don't use it, because I'm like, well, I don't want that to be my combat option. I want to be the druid that's casting spells, or else I'm wasting a ton of spell slots every time.
That's true.
That is true. I gotta say, maybe controversial opinion, I would love to see if they would boost the wild shape and make it more an incorporated part of the class. Maybe even make druids like a half a caster. Honestly, tone down the spells a little bit. I feel like we have a number of full casters that are very good options, right? I'd like to see more wild shape, but I want to see more people turning into things, maybe more frequent. Maybe you don't get 2 or 3. Maybe you can do it throughout combat. Maybe the hit points don't stack, right? But I'd like to see a wild shape rework, to be perfectly honest. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
It is.
I'd like to see more.
Everyone disliked that.
Oh, no.
Because your half-caster version of a druid is a ranger.
Yeah,
like, you already have that.
I suppose, but they don't get to transform into animals, which I feel like is one of the biggest pulls for druid. Like, I want to turn into a wolf and eat people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll make a lycanthrope ranger or something in the future.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, the ability to also transform and cast, but there are other options for that. I mean, you've got the beast barbarian, or you've got shifters, or both.
No, that's true, and I guess they do have the most options right now. But I'd like to
just go out there and
expand.
Get bit by a big pig man, dude, and then you'll be a big pig man.
I've played Minecraft. I know how that ends. I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
those pigmen do not like us. Always push me off cliffs.
In any case, Circle of the Shepherd Druid, just to touch on their thing. So basically, their second level bread and butter feature is their spirit totem. So as a bonus action, they can summon an incorporeal spirit to a point that they can see within 60 feet, and it generates an aura 30 feet around it. There are 3 different versions of this spirit that lasts for a minute, and they all do different things. So basically, this is like a support druid. It's very like a paladin-y, I guess. But what I like about it is it does give the druid like a battlefield control sort of vibe, which, I mean, obviously you can achieve certain effects with some of your spells that do this, but I like that the focus is on that. And then I also like the idea, again, they're the shepherd, like they're the druid who's also like summoning a bunch of animals and sort of like the leader of the pack in some sense. I feel like in another world, the Swarm Keeper and the Circle of the Shepherd could be one and the same, and it's the druid. So
yeah,
I don't know. But in any case, I really like the flavor. So the 3 things that their spirit totem can do: you can have a bear spirit, which grants you and your allies a bear's might and endurance. Each creature of your choice, when the spirit appears, gain temporary hit points equal to 5 plus your druid level. In addition, you and your allies gain advantage on strength checks and strength saves while in the aura. There's the Hawk Spirit that improves your sight. Let's see. When a creature makes an attack roll against a target in the spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to grant advantage to the attack roll.
Personal favorite. Very cool.
Yeah, super awesome. And in addition, you and your allies have advantage on all perception checks while within the aura. And then the Unicorn Spirit, you and your allies gain advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures in the spirit's aura. In addition, you can cast a spell, or if you cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to any creature inside or outside of the aura, each creature of your choice in that aura also regains hit points equal to your druid level. So you heal someone, you heal everyone. Really cool features that no one else can do. It's really a shame that the rest of their features aren't as cool. So at 6th level, they get Mighty Summoner. So starting at 6th level, beasts and fae that you conjure are more resilient. Any beast or fae summoned or created by a spell that you cast gains the following benefits. They get 2 more hit points than normal. More hit points than normal, excuse me. That they get 2 extra hit points per hit die that they have. And then damage from their natural weapons is considered magical. So cool, but it's really banking on, okay, now I have to cast Conjure Animals in every encounter. And I know a lot of DMs that really hate that spell because of how much it, bogs down combat. And now you're rolling for, does the DM decide who the, what the creatures are? Do I just let my player decide? Do I let them choose the most optimal thing every time? Am I really going to let them summon 8 wolves and roll each of that wolf's turns and have all the enemies attack them every time?
I think I'd have, personally, I would let you guys use Conjure Animals as much as you want. And to kind of fix it is theme your character after a few specific summons you do. Have your minis ready. Okay, I'm going to do this summon today right now, DM. Here are my 8 dogs that I put down. Or here are my 2 wolves, 2 dire wolves that I put down. Things like that. That way, it kind of speeds up the process because, Conjure Animals. Maybe that's a discussion for another episode is fixing spells that are kind of broken or weird.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird one. What is so painful for me, and I have played this fairly recently in a one-off, the only time I ever played it or I've ever seen it, the part that's very painful is the whole thing is based around that one spell, right? So if you don't have a spell slot to conjure anything, it's what am I doing? I'm a conjuration druid, and I can't conjure. So you do feel a little weird, and to the point with we mentioned the hit dice extra points. It's super weird to think about anything having hit dice because normally, a wolf wouldn't escape the party to go rest and come back the next day and pursue the adventurers. So finding the hit dice and all these stat blocks was kind of weird. I did have to do that, and it was a little odd. And the idea that you have to buff all these creatures that are kind of unwanted at this point, and now they have more hit points, or they have a higher AC, or they're just, they do actual real magical damage versus the regular damage. I think it complicates things for sure. I'd almost honestly like to see, instead of, 8 wolves, maybe it just spawns a swarm of wolves and it takes up one space and you get so many multi-attacks with it or something, just to make it a little more consolidated instead of trying to roll 8 times for these wolves, or 16 because they have pack tactics, guys, as they come onto these people. But
so it's sort of a confused subclass in some ways, just because it's got that spirit totem thing, which is super cool, and then the rest of their features are about summoning. So at 10th level, they get a feature that again just buffs their summons. When they end their turn within one of your auras, they heal for a certain amount of hit points. And then at 14th level, they do get a really cool ability. If you're reduced to 0 hit points or are incapacitated against your will, you can immediately gain the benefits of Conjure Animals as if it were cast using a 9th level spell. It summons 4 beasts of your choice that are challenge rating 2 or lower. The conjured beasts appear within 20 feet of you. If they receive no commands, they protect you from harm and attack your foes. It lasts for 1 hour, requiring no concentration. So if, for example, someone were able to get you back up, now you've just got, these 4 CR2 beasts to assist. And then you can cast another Conjure Animals on top of that if you want to get really spicy.
Bad thing is at that point, you summon a CR2 beast, one shot by whatever enemy you're fighting.
Yeah, seriously.
They're donezo.
Yeah, I mean, we're 14th level now. And I know for a fact that these CR2 beasts are not going to last against Whisperers or, anything that we were fighting really, but
I think at a lower level it could which, I mean, you have to get level, 9, 11, you said to get, it's pretty high up there. But what I do like about that ability is beyond it just being really sick.
It's their final ability, their 14th level one.
Oh, so 14. So at that point, realistically, at 14th level, I feel like it's a defensive thing.
Yeah.
If you're going down, while the big bad guy, he can do whatever he can, he may not be able to get through 8 wolves to get. He might have to kill 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, And by that time, your allies should be able to get over and heal you. It's more of a stalling thing.
Or one of them, picks you up, drags you away, while the others hold them back, whatever has to get done. Mm-hmm. So I
do like that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things in D&D is when there's you drop to 0 hit points and something happens.
Yes.
So definitely appreciate that. Hope to see them take another stab at it. I mean, it's not in the player's handbook, so we may never see the Circle of the Shepherd make a return in 1 D&D, but if they do, you know what I want, Wizards of the Coast. And if you don't, call me. We'll work it out.
Just go right into Seth's DMs, actually. He likes that.
So, I want to talk about an entire freaking class from the player's handbook, and that is just the sorcerer. The subclasses from the sorcerer in the player's handbook, there are 2. and they're kind of booty. I mean, not necessarily. So the one that you had to go with whenever the Player's Handbook first came out was the Draconic Bloodline. Like, every sorcerer had to be the Draconic Bloodline because your other option is the Wild Magic Bloodline. Like, there's nothing else outside of that. Those are your two sorcerer's origins. So Draconic Bloodline lets you choose an element based on whichever kind of dragon is a part of your bloodline. So whether it's like a black dragon with poison, a blue dragon with lightning, and you're, I believe, resistant to that kind of damage. Let me make sure. Let's see.
I think you're correct.
At first level, you choose the dragon. The damage type associated with dragon is used by you again later. You can read, write, and Draconic. Additionally, whatever you make a charisma check. No. Okay, cool.
I think they get it later, but no, they don't at first level, which is kind of cool because what's the point in choosing like a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer if you're a Dragonborn? And at that point you're just doubling up.
Okay,
on the same
so they get an elemental affinity at 6th level. They can use a sorcery point to gain resistance to their damage type for an hour. So not bad, but also you're using your sorcery points on that. One thing they get is basically a permanent mage armor. Their AC is automatically 13 plus dex at all time because their skin hardens like they have scales. So that's very cool. At 14th level, they can have wings. Nice. They get dragon wings.
Very cool.
And then at 18th level, they get some Draconic Presence abilities. I mean, this was the only choice you had whenever, like, really, outside of Wild Magic, whenever the book came out. Wild Magic always sounds like so much fun when you get into it. And then you're like, oh, but Draconic Bloodline just has better abilities for me overall. Not a whole lot for you sorcerer-wise. Obviously, you get your meta magic abilities and everything like that, which really make the sorcerer class what it is. But once other books started coming out, like expanding what you could choose as a sorcerer, I'd never see these anymore.
Yeah, and I will say that between those two, I don't think we've ever seen a Draconic Bloodline sorcerer at our table. And of the two, Wild Magic almost seems like the more fun option. Like, you'll see a lot of new players that are drawn to this. Like, what, you mean I get to roll and random stuff happens? That sounds like so much fun. But it's not that much fun.
No, with the Wild Magic one, you get your Wild Magic Surge. So whenever you cast spells, sometimes random things happen. On paper, that's the coolest fucking thing. Like, okay, sometimes I'm going to cast a spell and more stuff's just going to happen. But the stuff on this table is dumb. Like, none of it's fun. So, I'll pick out a random one. Okay, you automatically cast Magic Missile at 5th level. That's cool. That works. For the next minute, you regain 5 hit points at the start of each of your turns. That's nice. There are some benefits that come along with it. These are all the low-level ones. One of them is literally like, oh yeah, you just become a potted plant. That's cool. You can't speak for the next minute. Whenever you try, pink bubbles float out of your mouth. Let's see. If you die within, some of these are really nice, but it's just 90% of the time you're getting something dumb.
Right. Well, and it's always up to the DM's discretion for when these things these activate. Right. Am I remembering that incorrectly?
I believe that's the case, or you have to roll.
It's a little complicated to understand. It's almost like a back and forth, right? So you have to expend one of your abilities, and I have to look at which ability.
So yeah, Wild Magic Surge. Once per turn, the DM can have you roll a d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell at 1st level or higher. If you roll a 1, roll on the Wild Magic Surge table to create a magical effect. If that effect is a spell, it is too wild to be affected by your meta magic. And if it normally requires concentration, it doesn't require concentration in this case. The spell lasts for its full duration. So, at the DM's discretion, like you said, I could be like, okay, yeah, roll a d20 with that spell, which I would say every time you cast a spell. No matter what, just always roll a d20, because if you get a 1, then an effect's going to go off. I don't like that the chances are so small. So 5% chance for you to get a maybe ability that is going to be maybe or maybe not beneficial to you.
Most of the time, I would imagine it probably doesn't do something that you would want it to.
Yeah, I read off some good stuff on that list, but this list is full of things. You grow a long beard made of feathers that remains until you sneeze, at which point the feathers explode out from your face. That's just one of the things. I think one of them is something about like you get taller or something like that.
Yes,
like
or you even get younger, I believe.
your hair falls out and grows back within 24 hours. Like this is just random stuff that I'm like, that's not fun. You should have a very limited, like what they did with the Wild Magic Barbarian. You should have a limited table of abilities that happens, and you have a much higher chance of actually happening, so it can be part of your character. Or you need to have some really, like a really, really cool, solid list that is mostly fun, or like damage dealing or something. Like you need some cool effects on there because 90% of the time when I'm working with wild magic stuff, go online and look at the million wild magic surge tables that people have come up with, and then it gets fun because it's like, ooh, okay, they're casting an evocation spell, so I'm going to pull up the evocation wild magic table, and something based on that happens. Or, okay, they cast an illusion spell, now something based on that, because it's illusion magic that they're weaving, something is going to happen that's based on that. Like, it's always really fun when you actually, like, class it out based on what they're doing, instead of, okay, yeah, I'm going to cast Fireball, and then pink bubbles come out of my mouth when I talk. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Now,
why did that happen?
I will say, as more experienced players, this class is definitely less fun than it would be if we were newer. I will say I have run a group of people where one of the players did play as a wild magic sorcerer, and it was an absolute blast. Now, everyone at the table was new, right? Everyone at the table was brand new, and we had actually agreed to make it more fun because we all kind of knew or I had known how the class worked. I had made a deal with the player and said, don't look at the table, and when you roll, we'll narrate it so it's more fun for you, so that these random effects happen, and I could make them a little more theatrical, more dramatic, right? And we had some great actual experiences with some of those rolls. For example, the feather beard you had discussed. We had rolled on the table and gotten that option. And so what I actually did was I went to all the other players at the table and I described how this Featherbeard had appeared on their sorcerer friend. And they all looked over like, what's happening? And we didn't tell her. And she's like, what's happening? What's happening? And then 10 minutes into the fight that they were in, she actually sneezed and all the feathers came off. And so I described to her how when she sneezed, in real life, all the feathers came off of her character. So
yeah, that's
really good.
I like that.
It was solid, and we had a blast. I also made the deal in the beginning that if the wild magic could go off, that I would make sure it did. You can also be on the fence with that because, to your point, there's a lot of bubble effects that don't do anything, the Featherbeards, right? But there's also some pretty solid ones and some pretty bad ones. Most notably, somewhere in the 50s or 60s, if you roll like a 55 or something like that, a fireball goes off centered on you. And if you're a low-level sorcerer and that happens, it could result in, a TPK or something of that nature. So you have to be careful with when it goes off. I like the idea that it is given to the DM's discretion just to be safe, because maybe, you're in the heat of battle and it looks like it's getting kind of close. You don't want a fireball to go off and kill your whole party. It'd be nice to be able to pull a punch there and say, oh, you're so focused on the battle that you've owned and controlled the magic. You're holding it back right now because you're so focused on the battle at hand that it doesn't go off.
Don't get your ability.
That's the hard part. That's the hard part.
You're such a good sorcerer that you lost your wild magic ability. It's not wild anymore.
So I will agree with you guys. I will poop all over the sorcerer, but I will say it is very fun for new players to blast the table.
I just think as soon as other sorcerers came out, we got way better options, and it was like, yep, never gonna play those again.
Yep.
Like these two that are in here. So, Wizards, if you're out there listening, nice toes. You, yeah, I definitely want a relook at. I mean, I'm sure this is gonna happen, but these subclasses are just not where I like them in the player's handbook. And obviously, with one D&D coming out, we know for a fact we're going to get reworks on a lot of these. And since they're doing 3 or 4 subclasses for each one, I wonder which other ones they're going to be looking at for the sorcerer.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like in the player's handbook, there isn't like a default option. I mean, it's obviously the draconic bloodline, I guess. But even if you look at the others, like, Shadow, Divine Soul, what even else
Storm
is there?
Sorcerer.
Yeah, Storm Sorcerer. None of those are like the default de facto sorcerer subclass, I feel like. Like, Wizard obviously has Evocation, Fighter has Champion, Ranger has Beastmaster. There's
I would even say hunter.
or hunter. Ranger has 2. But there's not a great one for the sorcerer in there. Speaking of like default classes, I don't want to go super in depth on this one, but have either of you guys ever seen a great old one warlock?
No. I've read through it before and thought about it, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, and so like their options seem pretty cool. I mean that they at first level they get telepathy. I believe it's limited. You can telepathically speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of you.
It's pretty good.
And they just have that. And then they get, as they level up, additional, like, mind-controlling powers and I believe they get resistance against psychic damage. And if they take psychic damage, they deal it back to the target, too.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome. And if you think about a warlock, I feel like, a great old one warlock, they've uncovered this eldritch power. I feel like that's their one cantrip is literally named Eldritch Blast. Like it's supposed to be a great old one warlock, but no one ever goes with that. It's always the fiend or any of the Xanathar's
striking a deal
ones.
with a devil is a great concept for a character and can play into like every campaign amazingly. So can a great old one though, where it's like, oh, you've dug up something you shouldn't have, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it works well with like the great old one because there's this idea that sort of separates a warlock and a cleric, where like a cleric is constantly like in devotion to their deity and their power comes from them. The warlock, yeah, their power does come from the patron, but it's like, once the deal's been struck, if the warlock decides, oh, well, I'm not going to serve you anymore, they don't lose their powers.
Right.
Obviously, there may be other, elements of the pact that, cause some problems, but a warlock has their powers. So, like, it would make sense that their patron is just some unfathomable, ununderstandable being who's not always, like, knocking on their door and saying, hey, I'm evil. I want you to do this evil thing for me, okay?
With one of those, have you guys ever thought of the Warlock Abjuration Wizard combo?
No.
With with an Abjuration Wizard, you get your Abjurer's Ward. So whenever you cast a Abjuration spell, you get a pool of temporary hit points, which is actually really high compared to a lot of other like temporary hit point things. So like I think it's like 5 times your level or something like that. Like it's a high hit point. You'll have to tell me exactly what it is, Zach.
It's juicy. Whatever it is, it's juicy.
It's a whole lot of hit points. Now what you can do with this is combo. Go ahead.
The ward has a hit point maximum equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence mod.
Okay, so it's a juicy pool of hit points. Plus, on top of that, if you multi-class into Warlock or take the Eldritch Invocation that lets you cast Mage Armor at will, you can get that ward back for free over and over and over again as an action in combat or outside of combat, just at will. So, yeah, amazing combo. And like the second it goes down, like, oh yeah, just gonna cast Mage Armor again. And then it's back up. Or you use it for shield, you get it back again. But like, yeah, you without the use of spell slots can always have your Abjurer's Ward.
I wonder, could you, would that work with like Armor of Agathis, which also gives you temporary hit points? Because the Abjurer's Ward isn't temporary hit points, it's like a special thing. So you could like
Is it separate?
Yeah, so you could stack that on top and get like a butt ton. I'm not sure if there's an evocation that gives you Armor of Agathis for free, but still that's an awesome like tool in that builds kit.
Yeah, so one of the players in Exandria Unlimited Calamity, she talked afterwards and was like, yeah, Brennan told me that we were going to come into this and we were going to die, and I said, nuh-uh, you're not killing my character. And so she made an Abjuration Warlock combo wizard who was basically doing that the entire time.
That's
and
crazy.
It was cool. It was power. She was like, I went to a friend who knows the game mechanics more than I do and asked them, how do I not die? And they said, this is a really good combo for you to go with if you want to live.
She cheated.
No, she didn't.
That's cheating.
She power gamed outwardly because Brennan Lee Mulligan comes to you and says, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I would do that too. Sean, you gotta help me. Redditley Mulligan's gonna kill me.
I guess it's self-defense at that point. I guess we could argue.
No, I mean, and no spoilers. It still didn't go that well for those characters, but yeah, no, it was awesome, and yeah, I became aware of some combos like that I was like, damn, that's awesome.
I feel like if you're playing a warlock, which I would say warlocks are probably underused entirely as a whole class. If you're going to play warlock, you have to kind of find that niche. You got to find some sort of synergistic plan that works for you, because otherwise in those beginning levels, it's rough, man. It's
Warlock
rough
is the
being a
perfect
warlock.
multi-class a lot of times, just like Fighter, where it's like Warlock gives you a couple cool magic abilities, especially invocations and stuff, on top of your current class. Just like Fighter, when you multi-class into it, just gives you a couple of cool abilities on top of your melee class. So I feel like Warlock is a great multi-class. I've never seen a super high-level Warlock like just Warlock.
Only one, and his name is Noman, and he's coming for you later. Not you, folks, but I made a character, and he turned evil, and he's still out there.
And he's definitely a part of the story. So,
Oh no.
well, any final thoughts on underrated, underused subclasses before we wrap up, boys?
Yeah, so we didn't give a lot of love to some of these classes, so I just want to go through really quick. Artificer, obviously, we haven't talked about. I feel like all of them are underused, but they're all sort of in that same boat. I mean, except for the Armorer that was just added in Tasha's. All of them have sort of only had so much time to stand, and they're all pretty good. Obviously, we've only really spent a lot of time with the Battlesmith, but we've only been playing one campaign for a long time now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Barbarian, none of them are bad, except for the Battle Rager. Go see our episode on Barbarians for that one. Bard, I feel like this is another one where almost all of them are underused, but maybe we'll reach out to the audience here, because I think it's just our table that doesn't like bards very much. And there's definitely a table where they're sick of all the bards. They don't want any of them anymore, because they're all pretty they're all pretty well balanced. So I'd be interested to hear someone else's experiences with them. But for our money, I mean, I don't know. We never really see any of them. Maybe. College of Lore is probably the one that we see the most.
That's the
of.
default.
Yeah, it's the coolest one, or at least one of the cooler ones.
Cleric, there's too many to mention, but go watch
Go ahead, mention all of them, Zach.
Yeah, go watch our episode on
One
clerics.
thing I
and we
will
talk
say
about
is
them.
a lot of the clerics are good. A lot of them are very good.
That's a weird way to say all of them are good.
No, some
But-
of them I would feel are probably not that great.
Yeah, Nature Domain, your 17th level ability is that your Channel Divinity that you get at level 2 that charms beasts and plants, you can finally tell them what to do.
Arcana Domain is just the weakest wizard.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I said they're all good. I didn't say they're all great. Okay.
No,
There's varying levels.
I would say Arcana Domain is not on par with Way of the Four Elements Monk, but it is down there.
Of course, there's the fighter. We've mentioned all of these in our episode on fighters, but Arcane Archer, Cavalier, Samurai, Purple Dragon Knight.
Even Eldritch Knight, I don't see that often.
Yeah, and Eldritch Knight is definitely the weakest of the player's handbook fighters, so I'd say for good reason, but it's a really cool flavor, and I may or may not have an Eldritch Knight planned for something in the future. So
Sick.
Ooh. For I gotta say, for anyone out there listening, we've talked about a couple subclasses and options here that they're flavorfully cool. The Eldritch Knight, I think, is a great example. They're very cool in our brains and the theming of them, but they're just not good enough to really put out there at the table or to compete with the other players. So if you're out there listening and there's one of these classes that you like or you would like to enjoy at the table, reach out. See if maybe there's some additions that we can have with all the new expert classes coming out and the new 1D&D revisions. Who knows? Maybe we'll actually see those changes. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah. We'll just shotgun through the rest of these. Ranger, we didn't mention it here, but and we've sort of talked about this one at length in the past, but Horizon Walker is super cool. No one ever plays it, but the flavor is awesome.
Well, you guys are around one right now
Yeah, we are,
in
but
the campaign.
it's because Seth just really likes them. But we'll never play one.
I love any class that lets you snap vanish. Like Horizon Walker, Fey Wanderer, stuff like that gives you Misty Step as a bonus action is like, oh yeah, these characters just appear behind you and kill you.
They basically summon portals. It's legit.
Yeah.
They're legit.
Yeah, and Rogue, while this may be the most played class out of any of them, not necessarily at our table, but, in general, you think about Rogue is very popular. You don't see a lot of the subclasses used.
Would you like to play an assassin or an arcane trickster?
Exactly. So, Inquisitive, obviously, our Drew's character, Eknon, was an Inquisitive rogue. He was awesome. Mastermind, Phantom, which Phantom and Soul Knife are new, so we'll say that maybe they've got legs.
Thief never got any use until we get to 1D&D and all of us want to play it.
Thief,
Swashbuckler, Scout, maybe?
Swashbuckler, and Scout.
I love Scout.
I've been thinking about playing a Swashbuckler since it came out. I think I'm never gonna at this point.
I love Scout because it lets you do the reaction movement and stuff. They're like literally I'm going to get in and do like a little bit of damage, and then I am out of here. I am done.
Yeah, and that's also an issue is the Swashbuckler does like the same thing.
Yeah.
Where they, if
Same
they make an
abilities,
attack-
different
yeah,
name,
Exactly. Sorcerer, we've talked about. Warlock, we've talked about. Wizard, all the schools that aren't Abjuration and Evocation. And then, obviously, Blade Singing and
Would love to see
and
more
War are
illusion.
very- yeah.
The new Scribe
illusion
is
and
very
enchantment are fun. The Scribe Wizard is awesome, but yeah, the Scribe is newer, and a lot of times you see War Magic, Blade Singing, Evocation, Abjuration, and then you don't really get a lot of the rest. But I think all of the schools, after we discussed it on the podcast, I'm like, okay, a lot of these are really cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. No notes, Wizards of the Coast for Wizards. If you leave them exactly as they are right now, I'll be a happy camper. So,
You're absolutely wrong, Zach. Please fix my divination wizard. He has a couple abilities in his book that he doesn't need. Please make him stronger. Please.
The portent is plenty. Like,
I know.
that's your
but-
only ability you need.
I know, but they have so. I will get into it, but they have so much synergy with their divination spells. So there's 5 divination spells like in total, but
Yeah, that is a problem.
But moving on, they're all pretty good for those.
yeah. So I know you boys are super excited to talk about Blood Hunters and Gunslingers, right?
No,
Don't do it,
All
Zach.
those
no,
Don't do
absolutely
it.
not.
Don't
We're not
do
going to
it.
go into there.
Nope.
We're not going to go into super homebrew territory for Matt Mercer. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Table Talk Friday, where we discussed more, not necessarily underused, but underused, underpowered, like stuff we don't see a lot at our table when it comes to subclasses. If you want more Table Talk Friday, you can find us on TikTok at Table Talk Friday, on Twitter at Table Talk Friday, and soon on Instagram at Table Talk Friday, where we're going to be having all kinds of cool images and extra content going up. So keep an eye out for that. Check it out at Table Talk Friday. Other than that, we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/tabletalkfriday, where you can subscribe and get a bunch of bonus stuff like this bonus post show we're about to record in a couple minutes here. If you like everything you heard here, again, follow us on whatever podcast service you prefer. And I'm going to toss it over to the man in the mirror with the subclasses.
Hey there, folks. It's me, Seth Pittman. And boy, howdy, do I just love D&D subclasses. Ooh, boy. Oh, look at me. I'm in the mirror. It's me. Yeah. It's me in the mirror, and I'm going to suck your toes. I'm going to suck your toes so hard. I'm going to suck them.
Jeez.